Hello, everyone, and welcome to our Journalism 2920 Intro to News and Writing and Reporting. I'm Professor Joanne Lightford, and we are at California State University, Los Angeles. Right now, we're in our class session, and we're doing a special spotlight with one of our award-winning journalists in the Southern California area. We have award-winning journalist Beverly. She's with NBC4 News Los Angeles. We'd like to welcome you to our class. And for those of you who are joining us, the class members and those who might be taking a look at this video a little bit later, we are going to be talking with Ms. White about what it's like to be a journalist covering the news in light of the coronavirus and what's going on in that perspective. So with that kind of intro, can you tell us a little bit about what you all have been doing at NBC? I know you notice a lot of different things that different stations are doing, but what are you all doing to kind of keep everybody safe? I mean, it's a challenge when you're out there covering the public to keep yourself safe as well as covering the news.
Well, first, let me say thank you for the invite. This is my first ever Zoom, if you hadn't noticed. I'm a little rusty with this stuff. But to dive right into your question, it has been a challenge from the get-go. Originally, we were just reporting on people who had loved ones in China and were concerned about their situation. That was maybe a month ago. Fast forward to the last 2 weeks, where I now have more colleagues than I can count working from home. And that's the sales department, the news department. A lot of people are self-isolating because either they think they've been exposed or they're just staying home because they're over the age of 65. I mean, there's lots of issues in play when it comes to the workplace. Most of y'all are staying home because you were told to. We still have a job to do. We signed up for this, storytelling that is. And in the broadcast world, you often have to go meet the people to do the interviews in person. Thank God for Skype and Facebook Messenger and FaceTime and all the other electronic ways we have to connect, like Zoom, like right now, we're using that too. We're learning to record elements like we've never done before from a distance to compel people to fire up their laptops or go get one if they've never had one, or talk to us on their iPhones. It's an extra layer of accessibility or inaccessibility, as it were, because there's an entire community of people who are not on the grid. And now we're not hearing their stories because we can't reach out to them in trust. We don't want to give them anything. They don't want to give us anything. We're trying to keep a safe distance. The boss has given us boxes of gloves. Yesterday, we fabricated what would be called a boom mic professionally, a microphone at the end of a very long stick, but we don't have enough booms to go around. So I went to work yesterday and was issued a 6-foot stick made of metal. I think it came from somebody's construction site. We have a stack of them at our shop, and folks who couldn't get the boom mics when we had them are, fabricating something new with duct tape and the old handheld mics that I might normally use in a sit-down interview. I could go on for a while, but I'd rather take your questions because it looks weird in the field to be walking around with a 6-foot stick with a microphone on the end of it, but that's how we gain the trust of people spontaneously to talk to us, as compared to the folks we've reached out to on social media and then recorded their comments, like I said, via Skype and the rest. So folding those elements into a daily broadcast story, or being an anchor person in the studio, sitting 6 feet apart from your colleagues, all of these are different images, and ours is a visual medium, but we're confident our viewers understand our desire to stay safe and still bring the stories. But yes, it's a steep learning curve. It requires a lot of creativity and, again, trust from our sources, because now we're speaking to them remotely. We're still editing their elements into the short story that I tell and my colleagues tell, and we're trying to stay focused on their information while also staying safe. Staying safe is the priority for all of us, and it has proven more challenging than any earthquake, hurricane, mudslide, or wildfire I have ever reported. And I've reported all of those things before.
I know I'm thinking this is probably a really crucial time for the public and the news industry, because a lot of people are looking to the news to tell them, what do we do? What is the latest? So, part of what journalists do is to tell people what's happening. And I find that when you have a disaster, or like in this case, a pandemic, nothing to this magnitude in our lifetime that I can, attest to, this is when the media is really needed.
Well, we'd like to think we're needed all the time, but you're right. People dip in and out. They don't always read or watch or care about our information, but suddenly it's a fire hose coming to all of us, and we're expected to filter it out and share the juicy nuggets, the pieces that people simply have to know. That doesn't mean they're listening to us and abiding by the instructions that are coming from the scientists. Those are the folks we like to refer to with impunity. If you don't believe anybody else, go with the science. There are a lot of scientists who are suddenly becoming media stars. The doctor at the federal level, Dr. Birx, the doctor here at the local level, Dr. Barbara Ferrer with LA County Public Health. These are folks I didn't know by name maybe a month ago, but I'm looking forward to every update they provide. So yes, I'm glued to my television before I come to work, so I can have a frame of reference with which to tell my stories, chase my sound bites, my interviews, and even challenge people in the public who want to check a sister at the Krispy Kreme. I had a man step to me a couple of nights ago when I was getting a box of donuts for my husband, and he wanted to argue about this all being a hoax and the like. And because he recognized me, he saw the news vehicle I just stepped from, he wanted to have a loud discussion about why and how us folks in the media are hyping this, and we need to just step back and shut up. And I was like, are you kidding me? He was dead serious,
Oh, wow.
dead serious. So it's not just what we do on the air, we're also ambassadors for a news division. And whether we like it or not, we get challenged, we get chastised, we get cussed out. All those things are still happening in real time. But I can tell you this, as a field reporter, because again, I'm not an anchor, I'm a field reporter. So I have to go to the story or chase the story remotely. Last evening, we were in Little Tokyo. It was a ghost town. You could go bowling in what would normally be really busy sidewalks and streets of my city, Los Angeles, has been emptied of people. Most folks are abiding by the instructions. But my man at Krispy Kreme, we had a few tense words, and then I just had to walk away because he wasn't having it. And I said, I'll pray for you, sir, because this stuff is real. People are dying. I looked to Italy and Iran and China and New York and now my own backyard. I'm not going to lie. I'm terrified, and we all should be.
Anybody have any questions for Ms. White?
You can call me Beverly.
Okay, Beverly. Melissa, go ahead and introduce yourself.
Oh, wait, sorry. Does someone else have a question?
Go ahead.
Yeah, I had a question.
Oh, wait a second.
Go ahead. Okay. Actually, just wondering, I know you said you're a field reporter. How are you, I know you're doing the social distancing with the boom mics, but how are you able to chase down people kind of like a man on the streets without like kind of going up to them? Like, do you wave to them and say like, hey, like, are you open to an interview, or how has that process been?
And this is Vanessa.
Vanessa, did I catch the name?
Oh yeah, I'm sorry, I didn't introduce myself. Vanessa Wyatt. Yes.
Hey, Vanessa, great question. And yes, most of the stories I've been able to tell have been remote stories. Last Friday, I interviewed an acquaintance of mine who is the drummer for the Tonight Show band. Used to be a big show on NBC at nighttime. His name is Smitty. Smitty and I follow each other on social. And I know as a traveling entertainer, he's a performing artist, and he's, of some renown, been on a lot of recordings, toured with a lot of big stars. I said, let me reach out and touch. Maybe he's trapped in his house and in the mood to talk. He was chomping at the bit because he's full of information and stir crazy. So we hooked up the Skype, recorded an interview with this guy who is watching his livelihood dry up. There are no bookings for jazz musicians. He and his peers are crying in their beer, talking all the time. And he shared some of those stories with us. I pulled up some file from YouTube because he's a performing artist, dropped that into our reporting along with all of his information, well, the best of the sound bites. It was a lengthy interview, but that was a remote story. That one was relatively easy. Yesterday, again, in Little Tokyo, where we did need some man on the street interviews to supplement our basic story, we spoke with an activist from a nonprofit who represents the 400 businesses in Little Tokyo. And they did some technical lessons last Saturday for the folks who work in that community, the restaurants, a lot of restaurants in Little Tokyo. And they've never gone online before with their menus or their takeout or delivery services. They didn't even offer those. They were strictly dine-in facilities. So her group taught them how to go online and peddle their wares for delivery and takeout. I saw that in a tweet. I chased down the source. She agreed to speak on Skype, but to fill in the blanks and meet the customers who want the food and the other businesses who might be affected, yes, we hit the ground running. But if you've seen a news truck, you know it's a rolling billboard. We parked on the street. We're the only vehicle on the street. People came out of their restaurants and their sneaker shops to talk to us. But we shouted across the street, like, are you cool with us coming into your store? And my photographer went in with his mask on and his gloves, got the video. I did the interview on the street with the boomstick. I can send you all a photo of me holding this thing. It looks kind of ridiculous, but it gets the job done. And again, it foments respect. People can tell we're serious about social distancing when we approach them first with a shout and then with a big old stick with a microphone with an NBC4 mic cube on it and a peacock. And they realize she ain't playing. We are here to get your information as much as you care to share from a safe distance. And I'm clutching the stick with my latex gloves because my boss gave me a big box of latex gloves and we are using them. We have copious amounts of hand sanitizer. We scraped up all we could find. I think one of our managers stood online at Costco and got some more. So we are in scramble mode, just like civilians. We can't jump to the front of the line and buy these supplies, but we're getting as much as we can to stay as safe as we can. And I don't mean to sound noble about it, but this is what we signed up for. And we're trying to do it to the best of our ability. The video quality isn't what you're used to because it's, like I said, mostly Skype, but it's the best we can do. And I think people are very understanding about that and willing to share their stories because everybody's got one. Not everybody gets a chance to be on TV.
Okay, Melissa, you have some questions?
Yeah, hi. Hi, Beverly. My name is Marisa Vasquez. Or actually, no, it's Marisa Vasquez Martinez. Sorry.
Are you newly married?
Yeah, I'm newly married, so yeah, sorry. I'm still getting used to it. I'm like transitioning my byline to Martinez. But I was wondering, how has it been to work with the city and how is it different than like a usual disaster where they're giving you updates? Has it been different?
Extremely different. You've probably noticed this too, that when the mayor or the public health professionals have their news conferences, they're standing a great distance apart. We're not even in the room. We are using city channel, I think it's 35, LA 35 is a city cable channel. They are the pool camera for the universe when it comes to Mayor Eric Garcetti. Other cities are doing the same thing. Park one camera in the room, have a feed that everyone can tap into, and keep all us reporters and photographers out of your space. In other words, social distancing from the municipal and the government level is key. I know there may be smaller cities or other markets, other cities where they don't have this TV resource that we have, but our folks are taking advantage of it every way possible to keep us out of their room as they spit out the information and then remotely take our questions. I called into a news conference, I think it was Friday, with LA County Public Health. And they put you in a queue and you hear a little beep, it's your turn to shout your question or speak into the mic and try not to shout your question. They hear you and they respond in live, in real time. I'm sorry, I'm a little sleep deprived. This crisis we're in, I am not going to sugarcoat it, has cost me some sleep. I'm an insomniac by nature, and I'm keeping a journal to kind of, to calm my racing brain. Because when I'm at work, I'm thinking of all the news conferences I've listened to before work. I'm trying to cobble together angles, reach out to my old sources and make some new ones to amplify these stories that deserve to be told. But it is challenging to get past the separation issue. How do you get people, real people, not just bureaucrats and scientists, to talk about what they're going through? So the way it has changed in every way you can imagine, chasing stories it's a new universe for us, as it is for the citizens who are trying to stay social, as you all are doing via Zoom, and still, maintain your academic standing, prepare for graduation. Parents who aren't accustomed to their kids underfoot, they're trying not to strangle their children right now. All of this is happening in real time in private spaces, and we're trying to take those stories public. So what the government has to say, what my neighbor has to say, what our friends in entertainment or academia have to say, it matters. It's just getting to it is tricky, and it's exciting, it's unnerving. We are all living in fear of the person standing next to us coughing into their sleeve, like, okay, it used to be benign, now it might be deadly. All of that's in play. Thank you for your questions. I like that one. I hope that answered it.
Anybody else have a good question for Beverly?
Hey, I'll take a bad question.
That question, I know.
Sorry.
Great question.
Yeah. The fact that I like to quote Sam Donaldson, an old school broadcaster.
Mhm.
He says, "There are no stupid questions, just stupid answers." Fire away.
Hi, my name's Marlene. I just kind of wanted to ask for like advice. I just feel like personally I get a lot of anxiety. So that's why I don't know how you're even able to like do stories. I haven't been able to do much because even just like looking at the news, I just get so anxious and scared and I just turn it off because I can't. So I couldn't even imagine having to like write stories constantly or be outside.
Well, I have to put this in context. I work Monday through Friday, 3 till midnight. And although we've expanded our 11 p.m. news to an hour, it used to be 30 minutes, and we've added a 7 o'clock newscast because a lot of programming isn't happening, talk shows, game shows, they're out of production. So we have more real estate in which to produce news, to share stories. And it can be overwhelming. It feels like a fire hose to me and maybe to you. And anybody who's paying attention has a right to be anxious. I'm not a psychologist, but I do believe talking it out or writing about it. Again, I keep a journal, and now more than ever, my penmanship is getting better because I'm doing a lot of longhand in my journal to empty out my brain at the end of the day. Whatever works for you, I say dive into it. And if turning off the TV and ignoring, social for a couple of hours works for you, that's what you need to do. Also, be in touch with your friends, your peers, your family, and in the end, turn the TV back on, honey. You need to keep up with this stuff, especially if you're going into communications. We can't box ourselves out of the world at large. The stories that are happening now may be going on in perpetuity. And you need to know, you need to be aware and informed. I often run into people who say, oh, I don't watch the news, it's too depressing. And I can't give them the song and dance about why I think that's a whack policy. I do believe people should watch the news to stay informed as a citizen, as a voter, as a human being on this planet where you've learned recently just how interconnected we really are. It behooves you to be informed, but at your own speed. Not everybody wants to do what I do, listen incessantly to MSNBC. And every time I see an alert on my phone from my newsroom that there's another news conference starting with the mayor, the public health director, the president's about to speak, here comes the Surgeon General, I want to hear all of the above. I'm a sponge. Take care of yourself. Self-care, long hot baths, get your partner to give you a foot massage, whatever works. Just think about social distancing, keep the hand sanitizer handy, and don't hoard toilet paper. I can't stress that enough. That just strikes me as bizarre. I don't think we're running out of toilet paper. Hand sanitizer is another story, but toilet paper, I think we're good. Anybody else? Oh, come on. I saw a lot of little faces when I was scrolling through. I think there's a bunch of people on this thread.
I mean,
That was Joanne and I will just talk all morning.
I know we can definitely talk for sure.
Yes.
And on the toilet paper thing, I still don't get it. It was really funny because now I'm thinking, well, everybody's hoarding the toilet paper when I need one. Where am I going to get some? It's just
I'd like to share something that didn't come up, but as a field reporter, I'm not anywhere close to the newsroom on a good night. The mothership for NBC where I work is at Universal City, where the theme park is. We're on the same campus as the theme park, which is a ghost town. And the movie studio is a ghost town. But the newsroom is still a buzz of activity. The news vans come and go. The reporters like me go from my car to the news truck. I'm skipping the newsroom to limit my social distancing. But some of my colleagues are working from home, producers and writers are working from home. But there's still a core of people in that building, and it's still a disturbed anthill. Like any newsroom, it's noisy, it's hectic. The police scanners are going, and phone calls and shouting, and all that is happening in any given working newsroom. But I'm in the streets most of the day. I ride with a photographer in a news van, and we go chase the stories, or we park somewhere and conduct our Skype interviews where it's nice and quiet. The challenge now, more than ever, is finding a public place to use a bathroom. Bathrooms have shut down at the restaurants because, again, restaurants can't have crowds, so they're only doing takeout. So if your Burger King or your Pollo Loco is only serving food, they will box out the bathroom or require a purchase, or I'm in line with 3 or 4 homeless people. That is the challenge now of doing news in the streets. Fewer places that are welcoming to outsiders. Starbucks is closing early or not opening at all. And I used to have a mental map of all the places that were open on my schedule, because you never know when you might need a restroom, and who really wants to go to a gas station? That's become an extreme challenge for field reporters right now. Firefighters can always go back to the firehouse, or because they're firefighters, most people trust them and will let them in their house or their business. Reporters, not so much. Yeah, we have to talk our way into places all the time. And that includes public places that might have a clean restroom with hot, water and soap,
Yeah.
which we know is primary. You really want that.
Yeah.
Sanitizer is plan B.
Yeah.
Hot water and soap for 20 seconds is legit. We've even got signs in the bathrooms at work reminding us, wash your hands for 20 seconds. This is not pie in the sky. This is not funny. I just saw a post before I logged in to speak with you guys. Brazil sent their choppers down to the beach to kick off a sandstorm to chase the people home.
Oh my.
We didn't do that, but I know you all saw the spring breakers in Miami, and maybe the folks here on our local beaches violating the social distancing standard. It's not the law, but it's a strong suggestion. Stay home. Just stay home. If you don't have to be out, stay home. Stay safe. We don't have a choice, but boy, bathrooms are precious commodities now, and they're hard to find.
Yeah.
So pray for a reporter.
Yes. I remember when I was reporting, not under the circumstances, that was the big thing. It's like, where are you going to go to the bathroom today? You have to kind of map your day out that way.
Mm-hmm.
Jericho has a question for you, Beverly.
Okay.
Yeah, my name is Jericho, and I just want to sort of get your 2 cents on this, because I've been sticking to a lot of media online, and I'm hearing a lot of people accusing the media of fear mongering. What's your response to that?
Well, we get it too, and I guess I don't take it personal. I don't, but we're not making this stuff up. And if you don't want to accept the information for what it is, and yes, it's continuous coverage, but coronavirus is about to cancel the Olympics. We're talking serious business. This isn't just happening in our backyards. This is a worldwide scourge. People are dying. I don't know how much more serious you can get. And if we continue to report the numbers and the situations and the unfortunate outcomes for really good people, lots of people whose loved ones can't even say goodbye. I mean, think about that. Your grandmother, your neighbor, somebody you care for deeply has to die alone because of the diagnosis and the prognosis and the insane infection rate of coronavirus, which creates the disease COVID-19. These are terms we didn't even use 6 weeks ago. And now it's common practice to talk about these things. Hashtagging all the time, COVID-19, coronavirus. If you check my Twitter feed, that's probably all the stories I've told lately are coronavirus and COVID-19 related. It's not just me. It's not just you in the sound of my voice. This is a worldwide conversation. And if telling the truth about that makes us fear mongers, so be it. Because we can't right now talk about anything else. This is a matter of life and death. There's been nothing like this in my career, and I've been doing this for several decades, sometimes more than I care to admit.
Yeah.
I know it's a righteous complaint. I mean, people with every pore of their being want us to get off this topic. But my question is, why? What else is there that's more important right now than giving people the information to stay safe and stay alive?
Yeah, I agree with that because I know a lot of people, I know in this environment, from the national level, the leadership is trying to demonize the media for telling the truth, because the truth is not sugar-coated. It's just very matter of fact, and the information is not pleasant right now. So I know instead of trying to comfort people, they're trying to demonize those who are the truth tellers. And that's how I kind of see it.
Well, Jericho, that's a wise interpretation of the issue. But as you know, the media had been demonized at a lot of levels before coronavirus came along.
That is something that we are, unfortunately, that foundation has been laid there. So some people don't believe what the media is saying, or because you're reporting the truth and the information, all of a sudden you're hyping something. But it could save, it is saving lives by people heeding the warnings of, staying inside and just doing what we're supposed to do.
At least we hope so. And just be careful with whom you lump into that bucket called the media, because these days, if it comes to you on your phone, it isn't always journalism. It could be information, it could be content, but it isn't always journalism. And it behooves all of us, journalism insiders or instructors, students of the craft, future journalists. We all have to be better news consumers than ever before. As they say, consider the source. Go to trusted sources in this time. And if you find it's overwhelming, take a break.
Yeah.
But go to trusted sources, and you're old enough to know who they are.
And Marisa, she wants to ask you another question, but she didn't tell you she's also the editor of the University Times at Cal State LA. Go ahead, Marisa.
Yeah.
You're on mute.
Sorry, still getting used to it.
Me too.
I was wondering if there are any like standout assignments that you've taken on since covering coronavirus, like anything that really hit home for you as a reporter that you had to cover?
Well, some are assignments and some are stories we come up on our own. I'm really proud of the piece I did with the fellow for the Tonight Show band, just because he opened up a window for people like me. I'm a civilian. I'm not an entertainer. I can turn on my stereo. I don't play an instrument, but I'm impressed with that line of work with people who are always grinding to keep us happy and bring us the joy that is the arts. He's in the arts world, and he gave us a little sliver of that experience and how this illness, this outbreak, is affecting his line of work. That was a story I came up with on my own. I'm really proud of the way it turned out. And the assignments, on the other hand, are all over the map, because think about the folks who were affected by this. In the run up to the closure of LA Unified, the second largest public school system in the country, we had frantic parents all over the place, and even some students willing to talk to us about, oh my God, I've got to quit my job, before people were being ordered to work remotely, that is, to tend to my children, which is, of course, their most important job. How everybody dealt with that brought tears to my eyes. I have one child, and she's grown, and she has a daughter of her own. And that child, my granddaughter, is in preschool. They're always with each other. But if you're used to kicking your kid out the house for 8 hours a day, and suddenly they're underfoot and they have academic expectations and teachers giving out lesson plans, and you, the parent, have to be the teacher. I talked to parents who cried about that off camera with me. Like, I'm overwhelmed. I'm a single parent. Me and my husband can't cope. We're not ready, and we don't know when this is going to end. And that's when they were being told class would be back in 2 weeks. Then the governor said, oh, snap, we're not bringing these kids back to school until after summer break, which means months and months and months of learning is in limbo. And the parents are stressed. Hearing from them and their union representatives, the teachers, the parents, and the union representatives for the teachers, all of that came at us in a matter of days. And having gone through that parent experience, I was awful as the homework parent. I was the cupcake mom. I could go to volunteer projects and field trips with my daughter, but my husband, who is a classroom teacher, he handled that. So I get that, how just mind-blowing it is to have your kid home with books and expectations like, Mom, help me with fractions, help me write this essay so I can submit it via this school district issued laptop to the teacher, who isn't ready either. I mean, none of us are ready for this fire hose of change and new standards and a new lifestyle. It's every aspect of our lives has been touched by this. So yeah, it's some of it I'm proud of, that I created, from scratch, and some of the assignments which had to be told, the school district story had to be told. Still just blow my mind with all the folks who are now behind closed doors coping privately, quietly, as best they can. And some people are not going to make it. I mean, there's going to be, I foresee, and I hope I'm wrong, but I foresee a spike in domestic violence. I foresee a spike in family drama, the type we sometimes joke about at the Thanksgiving table. Like, ooh, it's Thanksgiving. Some families don't get along. Well, those families are now together consistently. How are they doing? And how can we tell that story? That's why I'm here. We like to call ourselves in the field, as compared to in the studio, as field folks. We're the tip of the spear, and we're trying to safely expose those stories people are comfortable with sharing, so we all don't forget the humanity behind the statistics. There's a lot of people who are struggling, and how can we put out some empathy and some information that makes their lives a little easier? It's a lot. It's a heavy lift, but we're trying, and we welcome your story ideas. I'm not going to lie. That's how we get through this. Is as a community. Yeah.
If no one has any questions, because we've ran out of time, our class is a limited
Okay.
window, and I don't want to infringe in other, students who have to go to other classes besides mine. But I definitely would like to thank you for joining us today and sharing your insight and perspective of, how you're dealing with this as an individual as well as a journalist, because it definitely, it's a hard one to deal with. From what you've been sharing, and all of us, it's like we all are a part of the story as well as covering the story. So that's a different perspective, as a journalist and as our budding journalists and journalism students. Once again, for those who are tuning in, thank you so much for joining us. And we'll let you know when we have something else going on. But until then, stay safe and stay healthy.
Yes. And wash those hands. Wash your hands. Even when you don't think you've touched anything lately, this virus lives on hard surfaces. Not just in the air when you cough and sneeze. Wash your hands. And thank you. It was a real pleasure.